global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned. Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. We're so excited to have you again, and we want to use the opportunity to apologize for about two of our videos that had poor audio. Thank you very much for your understanding, but right now it's in perfect condition. All right, we're looking at the case of the NDDC that involves some persons. The Niger Minister of Niger Delta are facing inclusive, and also the ex-NDDC MD Joy Nunieh. We've heard a lot, and the update is that some socio-cultural group or human rights group have decided to express their interest in it, and they are giving President Muhammadu Buhari 14 days to do the needful. And what's the needful? Suspending the parties involved and also setting up a panel that will deal with them. If not, they say they are going to take drastic action. According to the news, the Socio-Economic Right and Accountability Project, (SIRAP), has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to, within 14 days, set up a presidential panel to probe corruption allegation in the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC). The body also asked him to suspend Godswill Akpabio, Niger Delta Minister, and all those implicated. The right group warned that Buhari's failure to act will cause it to institute legal proceeding to compel his government to act. SIRAP demanded that witnesses and whistleblowers be protected, and the findings of the investigation should be made public. Where there is relevant admissible evidence, suspected perpetrators should be handed over to appropriate anti-corruption agencies for prosecution, it noted. SIRAP, in a letter by its deputy director, Kolawole Oluwadare, said Nigerians want to see development and prosperity in the Niger Delta and demand that Buhari takes the lead to get to the bottom of the allegation. A special panel to probe allegation of corruption in the NDDC, and that is able to work closely with anti-corruption agency, would protect the integrity of the forensic audit, remove the possibility of obstruction of justice and interference in the process by those suspected to be involved in alleged corruption in the NDDC. SIRAP noted that the investigation by the National Assembly has been controversial and has turned into a dirty fight with the agency. Any perception of politicization and bias in the investigation of the corruption allegation in the NDDC would undermine public trust in the process and ultimately the public interest and good government, as well as justice for the victim of corruption in the Niger Delta. A decisive action is needed by you and your government to stop the corruption in the NDDC. Ensure that anyone suspected to be responsible is brought to justice and to fully recover stolen, mismanaged, or misappropriated public funds. Buhari was asked to send a strong message of intolerance for grave corruption in the NDDC and show that he is willing and able to enforce important constitutional, statutory, and international principles and obligations. SIRAP told Buhari to instruct security agencies to end the harassment of Joy Nunieh, former acting managing director of NDDC, or any other witnesses and whistleblower. Suspected perpetrators will escape justice if witnesses and whistleblowers are intimidated, harassed, or threatened. Effective investigation and prosecution will not be achieved if such crucial participants in the investigation are not sufficiently protected to perform their roles unimpeded. That's the news, and this is a good one because the way things are going, most people are of the opinion that very soon this issue will die down and be swept under the carpet. And most believe that the reason why it's going to be so is the fact that it involves some parties from the APC. My colleague is in the house, and we're going to be looking at this in a short time. Now, looking at what these guys have said, do you think that their action is going to kind of push the current presidency to do the needful?
Well, at least it's better late than never. It's better to do something than not doing at all. Or one thing I know is the fact that Sirab has been on top of this severally. You see them; they keep calling out the presidency for one thing or the other. Most times they are good. They are used to giving timelines. They can tell you 14 days. 7 days, as the case may be. But we all have seen the drama play out in NDDC, Joy versus Godswill Akpabio. One would even have expected that by now, Godswill Akpabio should be kept in a very wonderful place so that we'll know how far. But instead, it's even Joy Nunieh that is actually being alleged. It's even Joy Nunieh that has been trying to be invited and probably abducted, as the Jason Wike will call it. But like Sirab has rightly said, everybody's watching in 3D. Everybody's watching how Joy Nunieh will be treated. If for any reason she's harassed, a lot of whistleblowers who don't want to come up and declare their stand on corruption. But this is a test, is a litmus test, if I must say, with the government of the day. If they will pass it, because don't forget that Godswill Akpabio is a one-time senator, and those investigating this in a Senate panel are actually honorables like him. So they will either want to protect him, but then protecting him means also closing up a lot of things. Nigerians are watching. There are hard facts that Joy Nunieh has brought in. She said she had documents, had proofs to show that. And all these things culminate to one thing, that the government of the day must ensure that true justice is served, regardless of who the party or politician is.
All right, thank you very much. Now, let's look at the issues at hand. During the period of interaction between the House of Rep and Joy Nunieh, there were certain things that happened during that time that clearly shows that it seems the two parties are not exempted in whatever corruption charges that we have seen thus far. According to her, she said that the ones that she can give account of, I think, was 8 billion naira. So the question is the other ones, who is behind it? Don't forget that we're talking about 18 billion here. Do you think that at the end of the day, these two persons, based on the questions that we saw House of Rep throwing at her, do you think at the end of the day, these two people may not really go in for it?
No, but for Joy, in Nigeria, we all know that, like Adams Oshiomhole will say, that in Nigeria, rigging takes place, just that the better rigger takes the day. We are not saying that any politician or any office holder is totally innocent. At some point or the other, they must have, done small. But what is making Nigerians scream is the amount. She may not. Sometimes too, you may be the MD. If you are not conversant with figures and figures at your fingertips, people can actually use your name to defraud the company or the agency. So in her own, she feels she's very clean and clear, but she may not know one or two things that her subordinates in her name are doing.
I don't see. Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you short. I don't think that she can declare that stand because let's be very truthful here. Every agency in Nigeria, they have their budgets, they have their budget heads, they know, and as that annual budget is coming per month, they know what they are expected to expend. And guess what? The person who is going to sign final approval for that budget to be fully expended is actually the man in charge, the managing director, not even the Niger Delta face man. He's not the one that will say, okay, this is how much NDDC must spend for this month. Or even if he will say, this is how much you will spend, it will take your signature and also your signature for central bank to release the money to you. So if at the end of the day, you look at a particular thing and said, oh, this is what we are going to spend for me, and you sign, you take responsibility for the retirement. The source document must be in place and everything. So there is no how you can say this month you are going to spend 10 billion naira, and at the end of the day you say I can only account for 8 billion naira. It's not done. You understand? It's not done. You must take responsibility for everything. That's why I'm looking at this issue of corruption. If her signature was appended in all the requests for funds from central bank, and all of them, when they summed it up, it amounted to 81 billion. Automatically, she must give account of everything.
But don't forget, she was actually, if you watch all her videos, she was shouting and screaming that they actually want to force her to take an oath where she will have to be doing a lot of the fraudulent activities. That was when, the whole thing, went agog. Okay. So to some extent, she's trying to say, look, help me here. I'm oppressed. By virtue of my position, there's some strong powers that be that wants me me to attest my signature on things I do not want. So to some extent, we should understand that maybe she has been at some point, she has been signing, but she had just realized that it's her name that will be dented, so she decided to explode. Okay, I'm not saying she's totally free, but she's saying she knows that this thing is not right and she doesn't want to do it.
Okay.
So on that ground, we should excuse her.
Okay, all right. Now, I like what you've said. One of the challenges I've seen in Nigeria, especially when it comes to corruption, is the fact that people don't bail out when they see that things are not going the way statutorily it should go. For example, now, if I am being put in a corner over some certain transactions, for somebody said, "I'll pay your signature," when I know personally that at the end of the day I will be liable for these things, I have two options. For one is me accepting what the person said I should do, falsifying figure or do what, withdrawing money, or the second one for me to throw in my resignation and walk away with a clean slate, so that in events like this you can come out and say, well, it was at this point that I said I can't do it again, I had to throw in my resignation.
But don't forget that all the while she kept on saying it, that Akpabio, Godswill Akpabio, will give you verbal authorization, but he will never apex the signature, which means by the time of documentations like this, he's exonerated.
Automatically he will be exonerated.
That's why you see her saying what she's saying.
So you must follow the due accounting process. Oga, before we can release this money, then you must put your signature on it.
But most times, by virtue of her position, Akpabio is not supposed to sign. It's just probably supposed to give authorization, which he has done. But it's going
authorization will come by mail. There is no verbal authorization in any.
Okay, let's assume yes, it's coming by mail. But she's the final say. He's just the one supervising.
Yes.
But she's the one doing all the signature and all that. So
exactly.
Bring it to me. Let me supervise. He can even tell her, okay, we are just assuming here.
We are assuming.
You
exactly.
can just tell her, okay, add this. But eventually the signature is going to come from her.
If it tells you add this and you're uncomfortable with it, knowing that you're going to be the brunt, you are going to be the one to be the brunt, what do? You tell him, sir, sorry, based on so thing, I don't think I can deal. If he says if you can't deal, then you have to quit. Then you quit. Because if you want to maintain a clean slate, then you have to, that's one of the, and guess what?
But that's exactly what she just did. But just that maybe she came a bit too late.
One of the things I've noticed in Nigeria is that whenever people get appointment into offices, they can hardly resign, despite the fact that they are under so much pressure. Now, for you to prove you're innocent, anytime you feel uncomfortable in any environment, so that this kind of thing will not happen, you just resign. I think, thank you very much for the time we've spent here. Please just go to our comment section. What do you think about this ultimatum given to the presidency? Do you think that he will obey it? And do you think that this guy, the Niger Delta minister, will be suspended as prescribed by these guys? Please, by Sarah, please do well to interact with